Electronics. Right. Okay, looks like we're live and the audio seems to be working. If that's not the case, do let me know in the comments if I'm too silent. I'll try to talk over as much as possible. Uh, right, so this is where we left off. So in this stream, I would like to try and finish the teeth and also tweak the pelvis. And if we can do that quickly enough, then maybe do some checks overall on the other bones. So to just looking at some references before coming live, this is what I found about the teeth. So firstly, here's um, here's some facts. So there's 30 teeth in a lion, 12 incisors, and 4 canines, which we've already sculpted, and 14 carnassials. So yeah, we'll try and stick to that as much as possible. But we also have these lovely anatomy references from bone clones. So I'll just move this to my other screen. So yeah, if you want, you can just search for bone clones and find African lion skull, and it has some nice turntable for us to work with. So I'm just gonna push this to my second screen. Okay, just give me a moment while I enlarge my references on my second screen. There is a bit of lag today, more than usual. I don't know, my system seems to be a bit slow. Hopefully it gets better through the stream. Uh, for some reason, maybe it's a Chrome thing today. I don't know. It just seems to be very slow. Let's see if ZBrush is any better. Okay, so far that's a nice move. Yeah, seems to be an issue with my Chrome or internet, but nothing to do with ZBrush or system. So let's proceed with those teeth here, the front ones. I think these are the incisors. So there are 12 of these, 6 at the top and 6 for the bottom jaw. And they can, once again, be very similar to the other ones, the canines. But let's begin with the sphere, because not capsule, I like the sphere for this. Okay, and just split the unmasked stuff, and then you're back here. Oops, no, that's not. So Alt double click to highlight our tool, then move it in place. I think it's slightly, actually it needs to be right at the edge, and then we can rot rotate this way, maybe not that much, about there, and then scale, maybe rotate it back here. So from the front view, back to draw, get the move brush, just get the overall shape, and then we'll smooth this so it gets a little bit pointy. Actually, smooth was making it more round, so yeah, ignore me. Clay builder, No, actually, for this, let's just use the standard because yeah, it's not all that fancy. Great. And just so it's not too plastic looking, we may just dynamesh, make sure it gets dynameshed, and maybe a little bit more resolution. Yeah, about there is okay. And then make it a little bit more faceted, like a plane here. Also go solo, so you don't have to see everything. Okay, I think that captures the overall shape of this incisor, and we may have to tweak this overall size of it and also the placement. Now I think from the front view, you will see quite a bit of gap between the canine and this. So, and the others are very small in comparison to this, but I still feel like we could go smaller and some of that. And now we may do a bit of sculpting on the skull itself. So if I just go Alt and double tap, and this is the bit that I didn't do last time because I don't know if I said it, but I was thinking I need the teeth to be there in order to be able to sculpt this part. So for this, our usual alpha 6 and clay buildup combination intensity may be lower, but let's stick with 20 for now. And as you can see, we want to build that part where the gums sit on. And go under like that. There you go. If you look at it now from the side, from here, maybe smooth out this bit for now. It looks too rounded now, but once we do the same for the other teeth, it will look more natural, I think. We'll find out. We're just going to dynamesh this so it's smooth, and then trim dynamic, and there. Okay, that was the intended shape. If required, I'll do further tweaks. Let's see how this works once we create the smaller incisors. So control click. Oops, I don't know why it keeps snapping there. Why is it doing that? Ah, what is with this? There's something odd. Activate symmetry X. And what's this? Mirror symmetry. There's something not right about this local transformations. It's not supposed to be on. I might have turned something on by mistake because that gizmo that we saw, the big, huge gizmo, don't recall seeing that. Is that to do with local transformations? Uh, Mirror symmetry? That's fine. I did the quick 3D edit. Uh, I have no idea, but that's very odd. I haven't seen that before. Let's see. Here we are at the center. Hopefully it's nothing. Right, what is going on? Right, we want to duplicate this, so control tab. Ah, that's because there's nothing to control tab. Just oh yeah, so I got confused. So what I was thinking, I was control tapping on this tooth, thinking it would mask the other one, but that's not possible because the other one is just a mirror of this. So it's just me being a little bit stupid. So ignore me. So lock it again. Actually, make sure it's reset. Now lock it. Control drag. Yeah, there it is. There's the mask. So I was trying to achieve this. Well, it's been a long day at work. What do you want me to say? So anyway, here we go. It's all good. I don't know what the gizmo is though. That's a mystery to me, but maybe it's always been there and I just noticed it. Right, so this is shaped a little bit differently and we want to have enough space for the other two. So let's just start with this positioning and if needed we can move. One thing we want to do is obviously hit Control W while one of the things is masked, so we got different subgroup. And this will have to be, oh, sorry. So Control and click now. Move them forward. I think they're a little bit forward. I'll just quickly glance at my reference to see how forward exactly I need to be, and my Chrome is still slow. Mm, so yeah, this is quite a bit forward. I think we need to even tweak our skull to accommodate that change. Or maybe it's the canine that needs to be moved back. We'll see. I'm gonna for now put it over here. I'm gonna look at one more side view of the skull just to be 100% sure. 100% sure. 100% sure. Right. Yeah, I think the skull could use a little bit more sculpting, so I'm gonna move this forward like that. Check the side view. So it's somewhere there and also rotated this way. Okay. And that actually goes to with the, in fact, let's just undo that and remove the mask because the whole thing needs to move a little bit forward like that. Okay. Right. Okay, let's just sculpt the shape first and then we'll address the other issues. Just gonna mask the other one while I'm sculpting this. Okay, I think. Hmm. So it does get a little bit flat at the bottom. And yes, it'll look a little bit more human-like as we get to this bit. And there is no ridge like we have on the other tooth, so I'm just going to flatten that and also smooth in some areas. Okay, and now maybe I can mark this part so it's a little bit of a ridge there, not completely gone. And we should have just enough room for the other two. Okay, while that does that, I'm gonna also try and dig up the reference for the pelvis because we'll be looking at that next. Right, we're back in ZBrush. Yeah, just looking at all directions and making sure it looks like a tooth, even if the shapes are not 100% exact. We can make it look like a tooth first. Mm, slightly narrower on the sides here. Okay, I do still feel it's a bit too thick. It needs to be flattened a bit more from the back. And now maybe move it slightly in shape. Okay, let's come back to this if required. Now, if we duplicate this, oh, no, not like that. Duplicate this and scale it a little bit. In fact, before we do that, just make sure we move it slightly to the left. Alright, and then bring it in the middle. Scale it a little bit down so it's a bit narrower but not too narrow. Come back to this. And I think these four are pretty straight. Like when you look from behind, they're slightly in front of this, and then quite a bit in front of the canine. Uh, is it supposed to be that much front? Let me again check my reference. My browser is still slow, so bear with me. Yeah, I think maybe we've gone too far ahead. Maybe where it was before is absolutely fine. So coming back here, unmask everything, and just move back here, just about there. Okay, yeah, I like that. And now come back here to the skull and let's build up some details. Okay, you see what I'm trying to do here? Because this would have been a little bit hard to sculpt without the teeth. Also, I do now feel like this is too big, so maybe we'll squish it a little bit from the sides. Not sure if I like the angle of this. Hmm. Let's go back here. Yeah, I mean, just going by the head angle, I think it's supposed to be this way. So let's go with that. So go 1, 2, 3, 4, and 6 incisors. That's correct. But we do have a problem. I didn't group these. Alright, so let me just uh, mask lasso, so I can carefully get all of these. In fact, it's too risky using mask. How about we try the visibility tool? So yeah, here we missed a few polygons, so I can now go to where's that? Visibility, grow, grow more, and then now we got all the polygons. Let's take a closer look. Okay, and now hit Control W and that will group them. So yeah, just a tip if you did a boo-boo like me. There. Okay, I'm going to just quickly shape these and make it more evenly spaced. Yeah, it does complain about this center one. Always they don't move as well as the others. All right. Mm. I'm not really satisfied with some of the quality of the teeth, but for this exercise, let's just move on, move to the next bit. Now there are different ways we can do the bottom ones. I'm just going to simply stick to our spear because these are again slightly differently shaped from what I can see. So they're not like exact copies of the top ones. Just gonna grab another reference that has a more close up of the teeth from the front. I do have my app, I can try and turn that on, but I just wanted to try just the images first because it does drain the battery of my iPad quite a bit, so I don't want to leave it on for too long. But yeah, this is the most annoying bit anyway, the incisions. The rest of the teeth are fairly simple. Basically, there are three that go on the bottom and the top, and they're very, very similarly shaped, but different sizes. Let me just quickly get back to you once I've looked at these teeth up close in my reference. Okay, okay. All right, I'm just studied some of the shapes. So let's start with the corner ones. These are much smaller. Okay, and what I'm simply going to do is take the move them this way. Maybe there. Somewhat like that. And just going to Dynamesh it. It's probably not Dynamesh. Active. Now Dynamesh. Okay. Just take some trim dynamic to make it planar. The teeth are anything but round. So these planes are really, really important. Let's go solo and the back as well. So it usually tapers at the top and has a slightly round bottom. So that's what I'm trying to do here. That should do for now. Just gonna do there and there. Right, let's duplicate this. Make it slightly thinner, but more or less it's the same height. Maybe a little bit smaller, so I'm gonna push it inward, but let me check where we are with this. So we won't have space for two more, so that tells me we need to go smaller overall. Um, Actually, Control W, now we have different groups. So how about we go scale it down, move them across, and then scale them this way. And if required, I can come and tweak some areas like that. And now if we do the same, and with this, go a little bit smaller again. There won't be much gap between these two. They're almost they almost touch each other, but we want to leave a little bit of a gap there. And now control drag, come really close, just so there's a little bit of gap. Okay, let's see how this is looking. Yeah, the angle seems to be okay. Alright, now we shall sculpt this a little bit differently because it's more flat from the front and also a little bit more rounded at the top, so blunt at the top. So, okay. Um, it does take a while to understand the exact shape of these teeth, but instead of getting too caught up in the details, I'm going to get most of the silhouette right and forget about the rest until, well, unless really required, and maybe the rendering stage even, because yeah, I think these look a little bit, well, not a bit meh, if I'm honest. So let's go back up here. So the main issue with these is they're just too narrow. So I'm going to move these a little bit closer. Also make this guy a little bit narrower. So that will give us room to move them around. And yeah, that's what I want to do. The question is how much. So these again almost touch each other. There's not a lot of gap between them. And we always start with a bigger gap because it's easier to sculpt, easier to see what's going on. But this is more the shape that I see. A bit more rounded here. Also these ones. Then you go back to trim dynamic to trim off and get that shine back. So yeah, obviously it'll be a little bit narrow at the top where the gums fill in, but from my reference I can see we could do better. We could yeah, do something like that. Okay. Now there will be opportunity to for me to uh, spend some time detailing the teeth, and in the end, at the end when we do the retopology and everything, uh, but at this point I just want to make it something that works with the rest of the skeleton. Yeah, these are much better, the top ones right now. Um, this one also could be rounder here, so I'm going to take this clay build up and just gonna add a little bit of clay and then smooth it out with, actually before I smooth out, maybe, yeah, dynamesh it first and then just gonna give it a little bit of a dip at the back here and this side. That's a better silhouette for that. So if you just zoom back a bit and look at it this way, looking good. And when it closes its mouth, you can see they're not really interpenetrating. So this would be when the mouth is closed. So you get the lip that goes a little bit under here, and then the bottom lip there. I think it is making sense. So while that auto saves, I'm going to check out the what changes I can do to the bottom ones, and that's it. We will move to the other teeth, which are called, what was it again? Let me check. So we did the incisors. So we did the canines. So these are carnassials, the ones we're going to do next. And I can only count 12, but it says Lion's got 14 of them. But in my references, I can see only 12. Maybe they've got like two wisdom teeth somewhere at the back, which we're not too worried about. Okay, so this, uh, I think it's more to do with the arrangement, but I'm going to just shape some of these better. Also, one of the most important things to do when we sculpting stuff that are so close by each other is go to brush settings and make sure that back face masking is turned on. So we're only sculpting the front faces, not the back. So there's a plane here, so I'm going to sculpt that bit off. Rotate the plane here, so that will make this a bit pointy, like that. Rotate, and this one maybe could lose a bit at the bottom, and then planes at the top to make it sharper. So yeah, that looks like good. So you can tell when the specular highlights change as you sculpt. It just would start to make more sense. And here I'm going to also flatten this a little bit because it's too round, but maybe not too much. Now for the bottom, the jaw also. Again, I'm going to check my bone clone sculpt, sorry, reference, see how that's looking. No, I can't really see. But I think, I mean, we could give it a little bit of shape. So something that makes sense like that. So this for the canine, and a little bit of shape there. Alright, so I'm going to trim a lot of this away. So the idea is that these have to be dug in a bit for the teeth to sit in. And that will, give us an idea of how this inside part is shaped. Okay, I mean that's not exactly how it looks like, but it works. Alright, let's move on to these side ones. And I keep forgetting what they're called. Let me check what the names are. So carnassials. Again, very interestingly shaped. These are very different to any of our molars that us humans have. So again, let's start with a sphere. And I'm gonna just randomly place one over there. Split mass points, and then we ended up with our spheres. Move them in place. Actually align them this way, then move. I think the first one starts somewhere here, or maybe a little bit closer, maybe a little bit closer. And it's quite short, so I'm going to squeeze it down like that, and then start to sculpt. Let's start by flattening it a bit in all directions. Obviously we need to move this to the side, but let's first flatten it. Just subtly in all directions. So it looks like a little bit of a damaged stone. From the bottom, making sure it's on the mandible. There, better. Now solo it. So here, I'm gonna make a few markings, stamp standard, maybe to cut it into three parts. And then topological pull, round it a little bit there. Yeah, so what I want to do is flatten this side so it's got like a sharp peak in the middle. Get a little bit of roundness. The resolution is too low, so let's go a little bit higher. Why can't I slide the slider? Weird. Still low. What? What's wrong with it? Ah, better. Yeah, let's keep it a little high. I think that's way too much. Surely you don't need more than 800. Yeah, that'll do. Just have to be conscious as we're getting to this number of subtools. I mean, ZBrush can handle this really well, but I can't. Yeah, there's a bit of lag today. As you can see, I've been hitting the shift quite a lot of times because I couldn't see any feedback on my screen. But at least we got through this much. So fingers crossed that I can end this stream without a screen. Okay. So yeah, you get the idea. So that's the shape. And I think the others are also very similar. So I'm going to quickly do this with the standard so it gets. And even here in the middle, maybe just have those little lines so it's not perfect, at least smooth. There's always something going on with the teeth. I could go maybe alt and dig in a bit more with the standard. It doesn't matter too much at the bottom, what's happening at the bottom, as long as it's flat. I don't want to bother too much. Right, do you see that? Just reading well enough from a distance, and that's what I wanted. And this is in good shape, and the good thing about these teeth are that they just vary in size, but not so much in shape, which means I can simply do this, click this yellow scale button, scale up, and then position. And they also don't seem to have a lot of gap between them. So we may want to move closer, just there, and go a little bit in. But I think overall, both of these, maybe the jaw needs to go back, but there's not enough for the next one. I think I'll dig through the jaw a little bit. The size of the teeth look okay. So, oh, hang on. Before we do that, Control W. So they have a different group to the previous one. Align, lock, Control drag, and this one. All right, this one is not we could shape it slightly differently. Let me show you. Once I position this, all right. With this one actually, so let's control W to invert in the mask. Solo. Okay, let's actually flatten this. Mm, mask the ends, invert, pull them out, and then average it with the build up brush, so it ends up being something like that. Yeah, I mean, it might seem like I'm spending way too much time doing simple teeth. Why can't I just do some basic shapes and move on? To be fair, a lot of the presentation renders, if you look at the creature work from professionals, they like to show the mouth a lot, and it helps sell the creature as creature's realism. So, so yeah, the extra time to try and make it realistic is actually really worth it. But as I said before, I won't be going for complete accuracy at this point because there is time for that at a later stage. And I think we can just trim this part. So these have to be quite sharp. Yeah, imagine the amount of meat it's supposed to cut through all of this teeth. They're crafted with precision for very, very specific tasks. Alright, I hope this is coming along nicely and you're following along. Just for those who are watching now, I just would like to say that this modeling part, the sculpting, they'll stay on this channel forever. So you can always come back and watch some of these. But at some point in the future, these streams will not be like free forever. I will stream them live and archive after a day for coffee members only. But I haven't started that yet, and I will announce in the future when that time comes. If it does, there's always an if. But until then, yeah, enjoy these videos because by the end of it, it's going to benefit somebody out there. Right. I think that's all I can see, to be fair, in the references that I have. Can't go any further than that. So now to fit this tooth, first of all, this needs to be moved a little bit outward. So let's try and do that. Okay, and this will allow us to work on the jaw as well, the mandible, which parts of it was probably just guesswork. Okay, so let's see. Now I'll grab all of these and oops, sorry, the teeth, not the mandible. First of all, we could move these down a bit. There. Also scale them down a little bit. Scale them. And that's looking good. Now let's go back to the mandible. Clay buildup. Maybe intensity down to 10 or yeah, 10 is fine. And start to sculpt and dig in a little bit inward because it's not really like a curve, perfect curve like we had it before. That was just a temporary shape. I think it was 3 days ago, 10th of August. It was a World Lion Day or something. So I was tempted to do a stream then, but I really didn't have any time. Would have been perfect to do a lion sculpt on a Lion's Day. I was also reading a post about a really, it was Kruger Park, I think, in Kenya, where trophy hunters claimed a really beautiful lion. I can never understand trophy hunting. They do say that there's a reason they do it, and even if that's true, and there is a law that lets them do it, there's got to be abuse, right? I mean, I think there are rules around what sort of lions you can hunt, and what you have to leave alone. And from what I gather, there's this lion, and I can't remember what his name was, but I'm sure some of you might remember Cecile, a lion which was killed a few years ago. And from what I know, there was an outrage because Cecile, well, shouldn't have been killed based on any sort of protection laws. So trophy hunting is unfortunate, but the hunters, they keep doing it because they're very proud of it. But it just saddens me, you know. Even if you want to control the population of lions, I just don't understand. It's like they're in huge national parks all over Africa, and if their population grows to a point where it's a threat to the humans living there, now sure, that's something you have to think about, but to make trophy hunting legal for that purpose just seems sick to me. But yeah, maybe that's just me. Yeah, just looking at some of those lions that have died. I mean, the way the stories that how they let their pride, and to just be killed by a trophy hunter in the end is just a sad end to a fascinating, like a majestic beast like it, which could have had that trophy hunter for breakfast easily if the equalizer, the gun wasn't in the picture. Yeah, it's sick, isn't it? Humans are sick. Not all of them, but some of us are. But yeah, I mean, ever since I've started researching the lion references, I've been following some Facebook groups about lions, and yeah, I keep picking some of these sad news every now and then, and some fascinating ones. Yeah, I'll try and share a few more of these that come in my feed in future streams if you're interested. Okay, so you see what how organic it looks now when you put the teeth down and those grooves where the teeth sit in. That's what was missing previously on the skull, but now it does come out really nicely. And we have all these planes going on, you see, just under there. Now, if I just trim that, you see how the shadow looks like? And that sort of planar quality is what you're looking for at this stage of the sculpt. And all of these are going to help you later when you're sculpting the actual skin, as you will see when I get to that phase. Because a lot of these landmarks, because they're in place, you're not guessing anymore. When you're sculpting, you're just following the flow of the anatomy. You're letting the bones and the muscle dictate where you need to put the mask instead of thinking in your head how to shape a certain part of the body. Does that make sense? Right. Okay. So I just need to do the same for the top jaw, the teeth. So what I could do is let's try and duplicate it. I don't like to do this, but hopefully it works. Because the problem here is, let me see. Maybe it's possible. So let's say I control drag and duplicate all of it. Now I need to flip it. Uh, does it flip locally? I can hit control while flip it. Oh, just shift and flip it. And you see the number at the bottom? We want that to be 180. So flipped it. Oops, five more. That's 180. And now it will be somewhere. Where's the transparency? There. So that's over there. Oh, actually, it's easier than I thought. I think I had trouble in the past when I do this, and it never felt like it was worth it. But that's all right. It's not too bad. So the only thing here is the angle would be different from the top view. So you'll have to rotate it on the right like that, a little bit inward. And also because the top jaw, it won't line up exactly with the bottom one. So maybe just move out slightly. Check how it's looking. Yeah, that's good. I mean, it won't be exactly the same. So what you could do is just get some term dynamic going on some of these. So they're slightly shaped differently. Maybe one of them has slightly blunt shape here, and also maybe change this one to look a little bit, yeah, slightly different, each one of them. Yeah. If you ever happen to stumble upon my videos after the stream, do drop a line just in the comments to let me know what you think so far, or if you have any questions even about my process or about the project or anything. Yeah, just feel free to drop your whatever it is you want to ask, and I may not get back to you immediately, but I will eventually answer. anything you might have to ask. Right, the other thing here is I think this one is too close to uh, the canine. So that tells me either my tooth size is too big or the space that I have for them is too small. Probably the former, but let me find. Yeah, I think yeah these are way smaller. So what I need to do is something like that, and then I can also see that yeah I see this has to be a little bit different, and this is okay. It can do a bit more of a trim dynamic there and there. So you have the shadow, you see, and this one is really a blob from what I can see. It doesn't have a definite shape, so I'm going to trim dynamic it really hard. Yeah, it's actually quite tiny, this tooth. It goes really in like that, like a tiny piece of rock. However, from the side, it needs to be a bit more square, not move topological. Yeah, something like that. So what I'm guessing, because I can't see it exactly in my reference, but this would be very, very thin from here. So if I can just isolate just this guy. Now I know these two are same group, so we can auto group all of these in a minute. I'll show you how to do that. So what I'm thinking is it's probably taper, so it's pretty sharp. Well, there's also a story about these two males, S26, I call them S26 males in Kruger National Park. So the story has it that the two male coalition lions were part of a coalition, and one of I think they had a massive battle with some other group of lions, and it was it was dying, this S26 male. So it went miles and miles away. All it did was walk and walk for weeks, from what they say, and it went back to the place of its birth just to lie down and take its final breath. And I think his brother followed, and he was also badly wounded, and I think he will die soon. And he's just followed him, and I think yeah, he found a place next to him or something like that, or at least the place where he was supposed to die. And the most fascinating thing was that I thought was there were a group of hyenas just there, just watching this king die. I mean, as if they were paying respect to their worst enemies. So even in all of that, nature is just extraordinary. And when he was dying, he had his cubs by the side. They wouldn't leave him. It's just the most extraordinary scene. I just never could have imagined something like that. I'll have to dig that post out on Facebook again at some point and Yeah, if I just learn more, I might share with you guys in the next stream. Yeah, but I think yeah, this is more like it. You see how it's more sharper in the corners. That looks like it can tear flesh with it, even though it's very small compared to the others. It should have some purpose. I think it'll have two more like wisdom teeth here, but I'm gonna ignore them for now. So that's the teeth. Let's see how it's looking, the overall shape. Okay, more or less matches the reference. I like that. And I do like the teeth, the way it's looking from here. The canine, I think, has a bit more of a bow, like like a curve. Mm, let me see. So what this is should probably have a little bit more of this going on. Just the curve comes out a bit more there and then bends back. Yeah, I mean, if you get a chance, just look up S26 males. Quite a fascinating story they've got. There, I think that's more like it. So like I said in my previous stream, we had this very temporary pelvis, which looks good from this angle, but looks quite horrible if I do that. So all it has, and if I'm honest with you, this is more than enough for what we're doing. And even if you think that you need it for CFX, this is actually perfect. But for presentations, people like to see a proper pelvis. So let's find one. I'm just going to see if bone clones have a good lion pelvis. I'm just going to use my app if they don't. Probably they don't. Yeah, I just wanted to show you if I could find it on the internet, but looks like I'm just going to have to wing it. Okay, so first of all, so there's going to be this big U that is to, so we got this U, but they have to be joined together. So if we say take move, so it's going to be like that. So best thing to do is maybe join these two and then we'll create a hole like we did with the skull. So we have that, and from this angle we should be able to see a bit of that, the socket. So that's a better angle. And then this one comes out, and the pubic bone, the entire pubic bone joins up together. And there's two holes for the, I think that for the testicles to hang out. They will probably sit somewhere right here. So let's join this up first and we'll get some idea how to fix this. And also from here is a more rounded U, so like that. So yeah, we need to have it so it's more round. Smooth that and then Dynamesh again, and let's just and then fill up some of these, yeah, some of these dents and make it nice and even. Yeah, some of you might watch this and say, "Whoa, Jesus, it's a lot of time to create one creature." Well, in production, obviously, nobody's sculpting a pelvis from scratch, right? I mean, I'm doing it so I can create my own brush library and I can share it with some of you guys. So then you don't have to spend a whole lot of time. But when you think about, say, creating a whole new creature for film, you know, the, you start from the skeleton, you study it from the ground up, and that's the only way for you to get accurate results. And I've done a bit of a boo-boo here. Is that because there's no backface masking? So you see, this is what happens if you don't have backface masking turned on. Yeah, so make sure you have that turned on. But that's fine. When we're in the dynamic mode, these mistakes, they don't hurt you so much. When you're in a super high resolution and something like this happens, yeah, it will pain your heart a little bit. Or if you're in a rush, really need to finish this, and there's a deadline coming up, and you realize that you have ruined the whole side of it, it will hurt then too. But for me, it doesn't hurt much because I'm just having fun. It's just a personal project. Okay, just making sure it's nice and solid, especially these bits. They're very, very strong parts. How does it look from the side? Maybe a little bit more, yeah, more roundedness here. Give it some strength. Alright, okay, so yeah, that looks a lot better already. The only thing we need now is those two holes that we have for a pelvis. And well, I told you I'll check out. I mean, Boolean is one way to do it, but I really don't know anymore how to do Boolean because a lot of the times I use a different technique. Let's see if that works on this. So essentially, I'm going to mask these areas where I want the holes to be. And you can see there's a mask on the other side. Make sure there's nothing in the middle. So Control Alt and just making sure. And you hit Control W and you can see we have we have those two in a separate group. So Control Shift drag so they is gone. Okay, and now we can proceed to deleting it. So the way to delete is the geometry, modify topology, delete hidden, and that would yeah. So now if I just did, oops, sorry, yeah. So it does that. So when you once you've done that, the next thing is we could group loops this. I mean, what you can do is there is something called yeah, edge loop. Under edge loop, there's group loops option, and that will give us a bit more neater border if this saving is done. I can show you. So the idea is we've got two holes now, so we can bridge those, and then you know the actual hole. Then we are left with our hole, the hole that we intended to make, which is the worst way of explaining it, but you'll see in a minute what I mean. Right, so edge loop, is it pattern loop, group loops, and see now it's much neater than before. And now, one of my favorite brushes is ZBrush, Z Modeler. So what we want to do, and just so we can see this better, for now I'm going to go to display properties and click double. So this is what it actually is, right? So if you hit space, so spacebar is shift, spacebar. So while a loop is selected, just click spacebar and it'll bring up this Z modular menu. And what we want to do is obviously we have to be in the right context, so make sure that it's the edge that you're selecting, which is a little bit tricky when it's so small. You don't have to select the border edge, it can be any edge, like this edge here. Insert edge loop. Insert edge loop is the current tool, but we want to change that, so hit space, and what we want is the bridge, and we want to bridge two holes, so select two holes and leave it at that. So first, so we want to wait so it says bridge. Get really up close. Not a Q mesh. I want to get the border. Yeah, okay, so looks like I selected the one border. We'll find out. So as soon as you select the second border, so this border is, there's a border, bridge two holes, click that, bam, you see? That created the bridge, and it's crazy at the moment, but that's what I tried to do. Seemed to have worked. Okay, now uh, let's do something. So we don't want this to be part of that, so I'm going to go back to some other brush and do this. Hang on, is there a hole? Oh, look, we got some of these. Tell you what, just let's just make it all into one group. Yeah, it doesn't matter. It's all the pelvis. And there you have it. So there, now you do is control drag, so it's all dynameshed. Is it dynameshed? Let's check if dynamesh is still on. Dynamesh is not on, so turn it on now. And there you have it. Obviously, that's not the shape we want, so I'm going to take trim dynamic and yeah, remove this sharp edge, and also from the other side. If it's doing that, just dynamesh is smooth it a little bit. Smooth. There's a pinching going on here, so just dynamesh, smooth, and then yeah, trim dynamic, trim dynamic, and more trim dynamic, and keep trimming dynamesh, trim dynamesh, and so goes the process. Yeah, I enjoyed that. I hope you did too. So you can now see an actual pelvis. Uh, Maybe the size and the placement of the hole could be tweaked. So I can grab a move brush, quickly move it in shape. I think it's more, so this is wider. Yeah, I mean, there may be some inaccuracies. Disclaimer. There. that. Now that was, yeah, that looks so much better. I was starting to lose sleep over this pelvis, but I'm really glad I was able to get it finished in this stream and not leave it until later. Because this is one of those things that you just don't want to come back to once it's done. Okay, let's see how it's looking from this angle. I dare say this should be a little bit down there. It has that little angle. The pubic bone. And bring up the reference. Still holds up. I think this part it wants to be a little bit forward. I think if I look up here, I will find that there's another curve. Yeah, this thing could be more rounded from this angle. Trim dynamic. Yeah. Okay, guys. I mean, this was goal for today. The teeth and the pelvis. So I've achieved it. And so before I end the stream, I'll just go through some of the others and just plan my next steps. But I am starting to get a little tired. And I have another long day tomorrow at work. Busy day. So yeah, let's let's end this shortly. Now this is also not really well shaped, but I don't care about it so much. The ribs could do with a few tweaks. Some of these vertebrae, I think they could be a little bit thicker or sort of wider from this angle. But most importantly, I think we got all the bones in, and this cartilage that joins these two bones, really an aesthetic thing at this stage. But I will do that, and before the next stream, I'm going to make sure I have all these named, give their anatomical names, and I will go through everything once more, and yeah, and make sure that this is on Coffee for you to download either as a Z tool, or a Z tool is something, a tool that you can open up in ZBrush, or just an OBJ and a blend file. So maybe package everything in one this weekend if possible, if not the next weekend, and make it available for you. But in the next stream, once I've done all that, we'll start with the muscles. So yeah, so I shall look forward to it, and going to save this one last time. Yeah, thank you everybody for joining me today. And I do hope that you've enjoyed something about this stream, if not this, my other videos so far. I would really love if you just commented or even shared it with somebody who might be interested in learning this kind of stuff. So yeah, that's about it. Let me find my stream, go and end it. So I will try and come back in a week's time, next Wednesday. But if it's not a Wednesday, it will be some other day during the week. And yeah, if for any reason I miss one week, I might do two streams the week after. So that's it from me for tonight. You all have a good evening, good afternoon, or good morning wherever you're from. So yeah, bye.